the major problems of being the last speaker after on the first session after lunch is also that at times you find that the script which you prepared, the slide presentation which you had, part of the things already covered. So I will have to perforce ad-lib. I will not, the subject at hand is too vast. It's very difficult for us to tackle all four points which Mr. Kuntia had left with us. I will just deal with one thing, changing patterns of teaching and learning due to technological advances. What I want to tell you is that my experience with education is that I'm still learning. What my company does is there on a stall. We have a display booth here. We are into cutting edge technologies. We are doing stereo vision. Now, a word about stereo vision, I would request you all to go and see it. Till this April, we thought that we used to say that during our lifetime, we'll be able to see it. And people generally agreed with us. We were all quite skeptical. The world is in 3D. The world is stereo. That's why we have two eyes. But the problem was the display, with the display devices. Next year onwards, all your television sets which you get are going to be stereo vision enabled. All the DLP projectors on sale will have stereo vision enabling. The world has gone, they've broken the technological barrier, so you can't stop technology. What Mr. Kuntia has here is the most unenviable task. When you're taking ICT and when you talk of the Indian context, there are various variables which other speakers have mentioned. There are about 9 of them. Mr. Kuntia has to deal with all 9 variables running from a scale of 0 to 9, and all of them continuously shifting. They're getting scaled up, and he has to juggle his resources to make sure he's able to address and satisfy everyone. Now, what I will speak regarding in the next 2-3 minutes is I will restrict myself to what the Knowledge Commission has already brought out and what the ICT policy which the government has got the framework going, what they are related to. First of all, is the crucial importance of the school sector. We keep talking of a knowledge society, but we can't progress towards a knowledge society till we improve the quality of our school education. And the school education has to be more relevant. It has to be relevant to the way the child is living and thinking. Again, in India, the way the child lives and thinks in Delhi is different from what he does in Jubri Dulaiya or somewhere else. So there are too many disparities, but we've got to juggle our resources to stay on course. We have a large resource of human manpower. By the hour, by the day, lakhs of Indians enter schooling age, and by the day, lakhs go past schooling age. Now that's a very critical factor, going past schooling age. And then that's what the industry comes and says, we have a large workforce, but we don't have quality manpower. So how do you improve the quality of the manpower which you have? The Americans and the European Education Commission lay emphasis on high school science and maths. It is mandatory for a child to go through it because they feel, firstly, the child will be a productive member of society, and secondly, with knowledge doubling every 3 years, they feel that the child will not be able to cope up with the rapid change. Now, they are not only talking of coping up with change for work, they are more scared of dropouts in society and the implications of those dropouts taking to drugs or taking to guns. Different states in India have different requirements. This syllabus has to be different. And when Mr. Kapil Sibal made a few statements when he became the HRD minister, there are a lot of recommendations all over. But I want to tell you that science and maths, whether you are in Beijing, Berlin, or in Buenos Aires or Bhubaneswar, the concepts are the same. Or in Budapur, they don't change. So if we have a universal curriculum in science and maths, suitable for the entire country, then absolutely, it's not a case of center interfering with the states. It's a question of all of us realizing that it's a necessity and we go ahead with it. The Knowledge Commission has felt that proficiency in English is widely perceived as an important avenue for employment and upward mobility, which also greatly facilitates the pursuit of higher education. Now, when it comes to a child perceives and conceives in the vernacular, in the language in which a child flies kites, daydreams in. Now, when you give the child anything in any other language, between his memory retention and answering your question, understanding your question and memory recall, there are 7 to 8 stages of subconscious translation. At each stage, there is significant data loss. It's not only this aspect. Now, teachers in Canada and Australia have done research with migrant children. Both the countries have large migrant populations. They feel you have to go back and forth between English and the vernacular. They feel that ethnic teachers are slightly better off than pure Canadians or pure Australians for this particular segment of the society. Now, one of the biggest problems for us to introduce, Knowledge Commission says that from class 1 onwards, English should be a subject as a language, and at least one more subject should be taught in English. Now, teaching in English, the biggest stumbling block is that the teachers are not able to converse in English. Teachers, by and large, understand English, but they can't communicate their thoughts in English. So the need is that you've got to be bilingual. The Knowledge Commission report also says that you must encourage bilinguality. So what Mr. Kuntia or the HRD ministry has to do is, we have a state-of-the-art educational software. We make sure it is running in English and the vernacular, and give it to our teachers to start teaching, instead of one subject, start teaching science and maths in English, along with English as a language. There will be hiccups in the beginning, but within 2 to 3 years, the things will stabilize, and we'll all see the benefits that will accrue to society. We need something for our deserving students. We do not have a system in place whereby in the rural areas, I have a lot of experience in the army. I have seen most of the remote parts of India. The amount of innovation which one sees there are not seen anywhere else. But for them, those innovations are a necessity. It is a necessity for their survival, so they know it. But none of those kids reach the IITs. None of those kids get to file any patents. So we have to have a system whereby when we find that the child is proficient in science and maths, we fast track that child onto special schools. Maybe we can make a beginning with the Navodaya, which are already in existence, but some sort of a structure needs to be set up. Even in India, European Education Commission has felt that the student of today, in his lifetime, will be changing 7 jobs. As it is, there are very few pure courses available abroad. In India, we are in a society where the son follows the father's footsteps and follows the father's profession. Even in India, that is changing. I'm on to my 3rd job. The child of today in India may not be up to 3 jobs, or rather may not be up to 7, but definitely he'll be changing somewhere in between. So the context nowadays is to learn, unlearn, and relearn. And the child has to do it. The education system has to teach him how to do it. The key learning skills which the European Education Commission has identified and which are relevant, they are actually what Mr. Balasubramanian also said, put in different words: interpersonal skills, information skills, technology skills, basic skills, thinking skills, and most important, learnability skills. Because a child of today is going to spend his life in a multitasking, multifaceted, technology-driven society, and they need to be equipped to handle the challenges of the 21st century. We have to prepare for a future in which information will be increasingly accessible and the renewal of knowledge in many fields increasingly rapid. The school curriculum will have to evolve a better balance between learning of factual knowledge, mastering concepts and processes, and learning would shift from information receiving, like Mr. Dinesh said, towards an emphasis on finding relevant information, learning to apply information to solve problems, and communicating ideas effectively. The key word is learn to learn, which is very essential because of changing job profiles. To conclude, I would like to say that in parenting and education, we we make one common mistake. We feel that I know what my child needs. Irrelevant that I have not tried to find out what my child actually needs. What my child needs, I feel that the elder will use the number 2 will use the bicycle which number 1 has used. So we think in those terms, but the child is not thinking in those terms. Similarly, while dealing with our rural population, we sitting here in air-conditioned halls, without having spent even one day in a village, come up with solutions which we feel the villagers need, we feel the villagers must have, and how they must do it, we want to tell them that. Our solutions have to be relevant. I have a world-class product, but I have heard educators say, oh, for our children, 2D flash is good enough. They don't need anything more sophisticated than that. Who are you and me to decide that? When the child, I assure you that a child from a tribal area or a child from New York, you put five-year-old kids together, unsupervised, you and me leave the hall, both of them will start playing and communicating with each other without any interference. But the moment our interference is there, their behavior pattern changes. So our children, let's not deprive them, let's give them the best. And that's all I would like to say, sir.